Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour number 174 for October 26, 2023. My name's Jon Kelsey. I'm your moderator as usual. I'm coming to you today from Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts, the guest room at my son's house. He's downstairs in his shop working on guitars, of course. That's what he makes. I think Jerry posted his website in the chat for anybody who's curious about it. He makes beautiful, beautiful stuff. And thank you very much for doing that, Jerry. And I want to tell you about what Barry got up to. He took in Bob Andrews' shop, which his son had been wanting to sell and didn't know how to do it. Cataloged all the stuff and offered it up to the membership. And I think he sold about $5,000. He got about $5,000 for all the stuff, with the club taking a 20% rake off and a grinder stand. So it was a good deal for everybody. I think the son came out way ahead of where he would have done. I think Barry did all the work. You want to talk about that for a second, Barry?
I guess it broke out as about 23 gouges and chisels and about 9 chucks and sets of jaws. And then we had the tools themselves, and everything right now has sold except for plain old DeWalt miter saw, chop saw. I'm going to put that on Craigslist. But the deal was that we would get 20% of all sales to the club. And I got a message back from Mark, the owner of the tool, original owner of the tools. And he was ecstatic about the fact that they're all sold and how much of it sold to club members. The only piece that didn't sell in the normal sense was that there was a grinding station. That was just wonderful. It had a pair of CBN wheels on it. It had a complete $275 one-way jig setup on it. It was on a stand. It's just beautiful. And because there wouldn't be an appreciation out there in the non-woodturner world for what we had, the club decided to buy it, and it only cost the club $260 because of the club's 20% discount. So it was not all altruistic when the tool, on my part, when the tools first arrived. There was a Robert Sorby Pro Edge sander grinder, and I expressed an interest in that, and he said, well, go ahead and take it. So that was my upfront encouragement to get busy.
Well, it was a lot of work, though, wasn't it? You had to take pictures of everything.
Yeah, I had to figure out, first of all, what was there, and some of them befuddled me because until I saw, I was Googling, I'd find this thing and there'd be something stamped on it, and Googling that stamp marking, like one way, puts part numbers on all their things. And there was like the jaws, the setup stuff for grinding the pouring jig bit. And I had no idea what I was looking at, and I just knew it was one way. And then Googling it, and I found out what it was. But I learned a lot myself, but yeah, I did. I cleaned all the tools and checked operation and understanding to make sure nobody showed up to buy and I couldn't answer a question about operation.
Well, I thought it worked out great anyway. I want to thank you on behalf of the club for doing that.
Hey,
you're welcome.
Did that lathe, that beautiful lathe, go to somebody who?
Yeah, he's here. He's here on the audience.
Oh, good.
All right. Isn't Ken here online?
Well, Ken Vasco.
Yeah, Vasco. Yeah, he upgraded. Yeah.
All right.
I don't see him this morning, but he's usually here, and he'll probably watch. Oh, here, down here. He's down at the bottom of the screen. Yeah.
I'm gonna start a club of those. Because I know who else got one. I think Randy's got one too. So
nice lathes. They're very nice lathes. Okay, we got let me see. Next Lancaster Club meeting is November 7th, and the next open shop is November 11th. So that second week of November is a full week for Lancaster Club. I think I'm going to go back to open shop on the 11th and make tops using a skew. I think I got pretty close to doing it the way the fellow at the Mid-Atlantic did it that everybody was so impressed about. It was fun. His techniques are great. His videos are great as well. I'm going to grab the screen for a second while I'm here. I've got some slides I'd like to show you, and I'm hoping I can get this to work correctly. If you just give me a second here. I'm going to share screen. Didn't do it. I'm going to go to the board here. Mike Peace, take it away. I'm doing this wrong.
Okay, I got several things. I've been busy this week. I've got this lady contacted me that has she's a co-owner of some kind of game manufacturing company, and she offered to send me a piece of recycled plastic, and it was 7 inches tall, and so I turned this threaded box. And so that was interesting to turn. It's not like acrylic. It's like milk jugs or something. It's fairly soft, but that was kind of a fun project. And then my friend Tomislav Tomasic, some of y'all know him from the Four Ways videos in Croatia. He turned an interesting project. Basically it looks like an old style, oversized clothespin. But he sells these at craft shows to close bags like potato chips or whatever, and they're fast and easy to turn. They make great gifts. He says he sells them for about €5. So I think that's probably about $6 US, which and it works real well, a lot better than the plastic ones with a spring. And then the other thing.
Do you know what wood he makes that out of?
I'm not sure if the wood made a lot of difference. I made some out of cherry and oak. He uses some cherry and oak and birch for all kinds of things, so it's hard to say. I'm not sure it makes a lot of difference because there's not a lot of spring to it. You cut the notch on a bandsaw, where it's under tension, but it doesn't really spring. So the other thing I made, I went trying to make some more Christmas ornaments this fall, and I found an article by Jon Lucas in Wood Turning Fundamentals, the AAW digital publication, and I passed over it when it first came out last year, and then I thought, well, let's give it a try, and I kind of liked it, and I found that I had some old metal reactive paint that I never could figure out what to put it on because I'm not real creative, but it works great on these little lanterns. So I've got, you put this solution on there and then you spray it with this patina stuff and it oxidizes or does something. So I've got one out of that's brass, one that's rust, and one that's copper. And then when you spray that stuff, but the interesting thing, it's got these little tea lights in them. I don't know if you can see the little tea light, but they've got these tea lights now. You can get them. I think I got a package of 12 for about $10 off eBay, and you turn them on and they stay on for 6 hours, then they go off for 18 hours, and they keep recycling that time schedule until you turn the thing off. So you can put it on a tree, and in the evening turn it on, and then it'll stay on in the evening, and then turn off after midnight, and then turn on the next day.
So show us the bottom of that. That's the bottom of the tea light, is like a press fit in there,
yeah,
right?
Well, you could do a press fit. I think a flexible glue is probably best. I used hot melt glue. I just put a little dab around the rim and stuck it in there.
Very cool.
And it flickers. You can get different colors. I got the yellow, which I thought looked a little better than the white.
So you can find those on Amazon, I bet you.
You can find them on Amazon. They're a little more expensive. The cheaper ones I found were off eBay. Like I said, I think I got 12 of them for about $10.
That's pretty cool.
So that's all I've got.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the gallery view, and I'm going to take
Mike,
it again.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I watched that same video about the little lanterns, and I even made a drawing, going to make my own. And I was concerned about the amount of light off of a tea light. And I've been thinking about, I've got some small round mirrors that are about 7/8 in diameter. And I was thinking of gluing a mirror up inside the lid. So when you turn the light on, any of the light that goes up there will flash back down to make it a brighter lantern. I don't know if it'll work, but that's my idea. That'll be my spin when I make one. That's what I'll do.
Yeah,
You
I
ought to
didn't
try
get
that.
that
I'm pretty sure
fancy.
it'll work.
You know, it shows the light. I think it'll display well on a tree. That was good enough. The trickiest part is drilling the holes. John Lucas drills it on the lathe, but I found that to be a lot more trouble than to try to mill the lumber fairly square, mark it very evenly on all four sides, and drill down about a little over a half an inch. So when you hollow the bottom, it clears it out.
Yeah, I would drill it first. I'd drill it on the drill press first.
Yeah, that's what I did. The drill press, that was a whole lot easier. The other thing I found that you don't really need to sand past maybe, I don't know, pick a number 150, because if you use this metal reactive paint, because it's going to obscure any sanding defects. I've actually got some texturing on the top and bottom. You can see some texturing, but it even covers some of that up.
Mike,
you
what's the size for it? What's the height and diameter?
It was 2 inches in diameter, and I think the blank I used was probably 4.5 inches long.
So you end up about 4 inches.
When you part it off, it's maybe 3 3/4, 4 inches tall. Yeah, it's twice as long as tall as it is wide. So yeah, 4 inches.
You'd want to
Thank you
get your
very
lights
much.
first and make them to fit the light, not the other way around.
Yeah, you want to buy your lights first because they do vary in size. This is just a hair over 1 3/8. So I drill the hole. You drill it the hole to about 2.5 inches, so it goes past the drilled hole. You know how far, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference as long as you cut it to the area where you do the roof. And then I just took a scraper and just scraped just a little bit where it'd be a fairly snug fit. And then I used, like I say, hot glue to kind of tack it in there.
Hey, Mike, would you happen to know which edition of that wood turning fundamentals that was
November 2022.
in? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got a video coming out sometime, and I'll reference the article in the show notes.
Mike, your comment was interesting as a sidelight. I've discovered also that on eBay, sometimes you can get cheaper than Amazon because I think they're trying to beat the marketplace, you know, so it's always
it
worth.
varies. Sometimes you can. Most of the time, I find that it's not cheaper on eBay. It's cheaper on Amazon. But every now and then you'll find something that you can beat it out by a couple of bucks.
Yeah, the problem is the shipping cost. If eBay they don't list that on the price, do they?
Yeah, most of the time, stuff I buy, you know, I don't think I hardly buy anything that's shipping not included.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. I'm going to take it back because I think you've got it working now. I'm going to give it one try anyway. I'm going to go share screen. I'm going to choose this one, and then I'm going to make it full screen. And I went to where my daughter lives in New Britain, Connecticut, and they have an industrial museum downtown that's open Saturday mornings with a couple of old duffers like us who will talk to you as long as you want to ask questions. Now, Stanley Tools was born in New Britain, Connecticut, among other things. So this is the display, one of their displays of Stanley Tools, showing planes and stuff. And here's another one showing a toolbox they used to sell full of all kinds of cabinet making tools. I've got most of these in my shop, including that very tricky marking gauge back there, the aluminum one with 2 poles. They got transitional planes and all that other stuff, so that part's pretty interesting. They also made a lot of locks, and what impressed me about the locks was just how much turning there is in making the patterns for this metal casting. These guys were all metal workers, and as a result of that, there's a Polish district in town with a fabulous Polish bakeries and restaurants, because a lot of the metal workers that came over from Poland. These works that made these things were pretty much all water powered and then steam powered. There's some more locks and hinges and stuff, again with a lot of turnings on them. This is the invention of the chuck, Skinner's patent combination lathe chucks. Over here on the left here is a 3-jaw chuck, Those jaws all there's a scroll chuck. I think the jaws, each jaw has a nut on it, so they're independent. And there's another one over here that didn't photograph too well, and there's also live centers here. Now, these things date back a pretty long way. And anyway, this is where these things were invented, and these old guys will tell you all about it in New Britain. Also, bearings. Timken Bearing used to be here, and they used to make all of these kinds of things, bearings, which we of course rely on for everything we do. A lot of hollowware, coffee pots and stuff like that. And again, these are metal, but these are beautiful shapes, and I'm pretty sure there were wooden patterns or wooden models made in the first place, and a lot of wooden tools involved in their manufacture as well. This is an 1808 flintlock pistol, also made there for the U.S. Navy. This is the important thing about this is these guys in 1808 using water power began to invent the interchangeable part, because the Navy wanted pistols where you could take exchange parts between pistols. Everything didn't have to be hand fit. So this is where that stuff all began. The inventive guys brought over steam power from England, and they got into making parts that were interchangeable, and that of course led to everything we have today, automobiles and computers and everything else. So it began here in New Britain. Why don't I get any more slides? Oh, I see why. And then I went to the little New Britain Art Museum of American Art, and they had a special exhibition of shaker goods. And I saw another exhibition there of shaker goods last spring last time I was up here. And I'm just so impressed with what the shakers made. And this stuff is from New Lebanon in New York, is over near Pittsfield. This is an 18-drawer cabinet that hangs on the wall, sits on a shelf in this case, but I think it was a wall cabinet. And I'm impressed with the little turnings, and I'll show you some close-ups of some of the turnings on the knobs. They had early on water-powered and then steam-powered lathes running off a line shaft with leather belts. The shakers were not resistant to technology at all. They knew what they were doing, and they were very, very good at it.
Hey, John,
The knobs look like brass.
No, those are wood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are.
hey, are the drawers dovetailed, or are they just
They
how
were
are the
open.
drawers sides?
I couldn't tell. The boxes
Oh.
I saw at another show, wooden boxes that were rectangular, were beautifully dovetailed. These are spools for yarn. And this is a two-part turning. There's one part you can see in some of them, it's a base and a stem, and then the other part fits on, and there's a hole in it. So these are for winding with thread on sewing machines, which were treadle powered. And I believe they had some treadle powered lathes with Pitman cranks and some jigsaws as well. I got to keep coming back to the screen to get it to change. Why can't I do it? There we go. This is another sewing tree with a pin cushion and some more of these spindles sitting there that you would have had thread on them and a beeswax. This is all turned parts. Turned center post, turned roundel here, and I think the structure under the pin cushion is a turned bit as well, as is the little strawberry over here.
What's the purpose
They made a
of
lot
the
of handles.
beeswax?
They made a lot of handles for brooms and fans, and I noticed in this handle for the whisk broom, that's a piece of bird's eye maple there. Very beautifully done. I missed what you said, Jim. Go ahead.
What's the beeswax deal all about? There's a piece of beeswax.
Seamstresses use that all the time to wax thread.
Oh, okay.
Here's a chest. These knobs are painted black. Big, tall chest with lots and lots of drawers. The knobs are wood. They're here's a set of interfitting shaker carriers. There's no turning in this, but I like I've been making bowls that fit together, so this interested me for that reason. And here's a chair that's almost all turned all over. I think the legs are bandsawn out. It has a replacement leg, but pretty much the rest of this was turned, including the back, which would have been turned before it was steam bent. Here's a close-up of the knob, Mike. You can see I was very surprised to notice the amount of detail on one of these knobs. If you look close, when I look close at them, I don't have pictures to prove it. They're not all the same. These were hand done. There's differences between them. Some of them have dings and catches. Some of them, the diameters are different, even though they probably were made with a sizing caliper.
Yeah.
And these are all
surprised if they didn't take an old file to make a pattern on it, that they just pushed it into the end to get that design.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do that either, because it's torn in places where that would be scraping along to do it. But even so, with that, I think somebody might have gone in and said, "Oh, they got to fix their change this a little bit."
That's a idea for wine stopper top. Yeah.
Sure, sure. This one's cross grained. I don't know if it's a screw or a dowel holding it to the drawer. I couldn't see inside. Here's a working stool. Again, all turned parts, except for the saddle seat. Totally utilitarian. Somebody sat at this while they were working at a bench. There's another close-up of another knob.
John, didn't most of those knobs, they have a through hole with a peg that went all the way through, and then they put a little wedge on the backside?
That's what I understand, but I couldn't see that in this particular exhibition. Here's a chair. Now this one has tilters on the back legs. They were little pewter things, a little almost ball and socket, so you could tip back in the chair and you wouldn't make a ding in the floor because the round thing stayed on the floor and your weight would transmit it down to it. Interesting thing about these chairs is they very often, and I think this one they do, the rungs intersect inside the post. So they would have made the post out of fairly wet wood, and the rungs would be pretty dry. And when they would drive them in there, that they would intersect and interlock, and then the wood would reach equilibrium together and grab those tenons on those rungs very, very tight. The chair never come apart. Here's a rocking chair, again, mostly turned parts, some bottle-shaped front legs, tall posts at the back, and this one, the cross rungs definitely intersect inside the post. I took a real close look. There's actually a line around the post showing that was a guide for boring those things. Another table, again, with a turned shaft and turned top, besides some rush seat chairs. Rush seat chair. Again, mostly turned parts. I don't know if you can see it on your screen. There's stuff in the way on mine. There was a top to the, damn it, to the very nice top.
Get your mouse off. Get your mouse off, then your top thing will go away, I think.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is a fan, basket weave type fan, again with a wooden handle. So there's a wooden straight piece right through the middle of it that gives it structure that they could weave around. And finally, I think this is the last slide. This is just a table that's in the museum, and I just thought the legs on this old piece, was just beautifully done. This would have been done on a spring pole lathe probably quite a while ago. It's an pretty old table. And I think that's the end of the show, so I'm going to end the share. And that's my vacation at my daughter's place in New Britain, Connecticut. Any other comments?
Did they have any lathes there to show that what they used, or was it just furniture?
It was just a little furniture exhibit in the art museum. The Shaker Village is over towards Pittsfield. I've been there a bunch of times. There's two of them. There's Mount Lebanon, New York, and Shaker Hancock Village. I don't know if it's in Massachusetts or Connecticut. But they're over there in the corner where the three states come together. Amazing places to visit. Shaker Hancock Village, they've got a big, huge octagonal barn, and there are workshops there, and you can see the lathes, and they are powered from line shafts. And pretty much there's displays of the bench tools, and if you make friends with them, I've heard, I haven't done it myself, you can get some guy to show you how they work. Very much worth a stop if you're ever going to do a leaf peep. In the second half of October, that's one of the places to put on your list. Okay, that's me on it. Thank you for your attention. Ray, you're up.
Thank you, John. Going through some stuff the other day, my wife, we got a package back from a relative that passed away, and going through it, she brought this. She says, if I remembered this, I said, well, yeah, that was the first thing that I had turned bigger than a pen, and it was a gift. Let me try to get this up. And with a test tube insert, and this is dated 1990. So they had kept it. It passed away, and stuff got packed in a box, and we found that. So I thought it was kind of interesting to be able to go back to the first thing that was bigger than a pen, and done on a shopsmith. And at the time, I was up in the Adirondacks. I was the only wood turner. I didn't know any other wood turners, so I kind of winged it. So my wife liked that. and of course, what happens, as we all know, is you do something and it's you either sell it or give it away. And then the family member goes, gee, I'd like that. She's, I'd like something like that. So this is the second thing that I made, and dated 1991, and did the test tube thing. But this test tube is in there forever. But it was interesting that all these years, the grain stays looking good, and they look okay. I would change the shape a little bit, but I think I'd probably do the same thing again if I needed to bang something out. So.
Well, wait a minute, Ray. Back in 1991, what were you thinking about when you made those shapes? Had you been working with shapes like that in some other medium or in your
No.
job?
No, I was doing back then. If anybody was doing pens back then, that's what I was doing. It was, small things, and the pens aren't like they weren't like they are today. Back then, you had to really make them and put them together. And I had a visit from a relative, and I just said, gee, would you like something out of the shop? And I said, yeah. And I did that thinking, as a wood guy, I'll come up with something. I had no clue. So I went out to a wood pile, and I got a piece of wood and turned it. And that has, it was a piece of maple, and ended up with a real nice chatoyance. And I mean, it looked, they were amazed, as we all know when you do it. When it looks three-dimensional and you touch it and it's smooth. I mean, that was just like, it's not something that we're used to it, but people see it and are amazed. And it was my first try at anything other than a pen. And the shape was just in what you just said, well, it's going to be a bud vase, what do I need? And back then you couldn't get inserts or anything. There weren't enough wood turners to drive that industry out yet. So I actually went to a laboratory supply place and got test tubes, and put a test tube
Ray,
in it.
What finish did you put on that, Ray? Do you remember?
I think originally, it was antique oil finish, maybe, because I'd used that doing some furniture stuff. And so I mean, so 1990, it lasted well, and so
You got some good shapes too. The other one has some crisper. The shape's a little crisper.
so
Yeah,
see,
that one.
I would not do this on the bottom.
No. But that other curve where the one curve meets the other and then they change direction, that's a really nice transition.
So, but this had, this was never doing it. I mean, this had bark in it, it had pieces missing. So this was really for me, for 1991 and never doing it before. It was like how, it opened the door. It was like, wow, this is really something. And it was a tough start because there was nobody to talk to about this stuff. So ended up joining AAW a number of years later, and then the world opened up. So
well, we had a thing on here a couple of years ago where we invited people to bring the oldest turning that they had made. Some pretty interesting stuff turned up. Some of you weren't here then. You could you might do that. Look around and see what you can find that's closest to the first thing you ever made on a lathe. Bring it along and show us. It's fun.
That was number one and number two. So I figured out I found enough of the old days.
You did well. Thank you,
Thank
Ray.
you.
Questions for Ray? Okay, Sherry Wilets, what do you got today?
Every year I make a number of little Christmas ornaments. So I make all these little gnomes. And so here's an example of one. So I made it from, this is caragana, which is kind of a weed around here, but it turns fabulously and it actually polishes up quite nicely.
Say again what it is. What's the wood?
Caragana.
Never heard of it.
So it's typically used as a windrow. So around farms and everything. And I mean, it just grows like mad, like wild. And It's not a favorite, but it's kind of yellow in the middle, or pardon me, on the sapwood, and a very dark kind of burgundy, sometimes red, purple on in the heartwood. So it actually makes you know, interesting little gnomes. So I make an assortment of them. This one is spalted birch,
Very nice.
and this is a little larger one. So all kinds of you know, they're great for a number of things. So they're fantastic from a practice perspective. So if you want to get better using a skew, there's lots of opportunity with a skew for you know, doing your planing cut along there, for making a little cove, for making a little bead, and then when you're finished your practice, you glue a beard and a nose on them, and they're saleable. So they're an ideal little.
What do you sell them
What's the
for?
bottom one?
I've sold them from generally the small ones are $40, $45. The next size is $50, and I've sold them for up to $400. But that was because I made a life-sized one. I'm not sure I can. If you humor me, I'll try the screen share thing. So I hit screen share, and yeah, I'm not sure. No, don't know how to do that yet. So I'll have to work on that. But I have a photo of the one that I made. That's basically, when I'm sitting down, it's as tall as me.
We'd like to see that. So yeah.
What's the bottom look like on under their hair or whatever? What is where it sits? What does it look like?
It's just so this part is a cone, and the part under there is basically just straight.
Oh, and then you put a groove in to glue the beard in,
Yeah,
or what?
yeah, I put in, it's about 1/8 of an inch deep, that little groove, just enough so that the edge of the fabric doesn't show. And then I find it's ideal to locate the nose just low enough so that when the bead is glued in place, that you can fluff up the hair above the nose. Otherwise, if you put the nose too high and you can't fluff that up, it doesn't have the same character, right? So if you just place the bead right, then you can fluff those little hairs up, and they sell like crazy.
You could draw
Anyway.
eyes over there with, if the nose was too high and the word, you know, it became a mustache, draw some eyes on the cone. It would look
Yeah,
okay.
you can do all kinds of things with them, but they're just a fun little Christmas project.
Other questions for Sherry? All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to take the spotlight off you. Get back to a gallery view. Who else we got here?
One quick question. What kind of fur do you use, and how do you prepare it for gluing on?
So the fur, the important thing is to make sure that it is at least 1.5 inches long. If it's shorter, it just doesn't, like, it sits flat, and it doesn't have the requisite character, and it's just called faux fur, FAUX, faux fur, and you can get it at most fabric shops. Yeah, and I don't really do anything to prepare it. You just I use a razor blade to cut it, because you want to cut through the backing but not through the long fur itself. And I glue it on with hot glue.
You can go to Amazon, and they sell a scrap bag with different colors, which is an interesting option if you're going to make a bunch of these, because they make nice small little Christmas tree ornaments as well, and they come in all kinds of bright colors, and little remnants they sell in a bag.
Okay. Anybody else on this? Good topic this time of year, Christmas ornaments. I think it might be the topic of the November meeting. I'm not sure. Anyhow, Kapp, are you there? You had your hand up. What do you want to show us?
I have a elm burl bowl. It was just completed the beginning of this week. I'm on vacation, so It's been around for a long time. It has some very, very nice character to it all the way around.
What's your finish on that?
This is the Parfix 3408, if you know what that is.
No.
That's a slow setting
CA.
CA glue. Yes.
A show slow setting what?
Slow setting CA glue.
Ah, okay.
It's very simple to use.
How slow setting is that? How do you do that finish?
It has a 40-second time delay. I have a YouTube channel out there if you'd like to go look at it. It's very simple to use. It's a one coat application and then buff it. So it is very simple to use.
What's the name of it again? What's
Parfix 3408.
I
I'll
think
put
I
it
have
in.
some of that I bought by accident. I'm gonna have to take a look.
Yeah,
You want to put a link to your YouTube channel in the chat?
I will then, yes.
Are
Yeah,
you any relation to Jack Kapp?
Yeah, I'm the son.
I thought you might be. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are you
Yeah.
turning that on?
Pardon?
What did you turn that on? What's your lathe? I see Laguna over there.
It's an 1836 Laguna,
Nice.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do other kinds of woodworking as well?
Yeah, I do a little bit of other woodworking, but here's what I'm working on. I'll be working on today too. More pepper mills. These are the 6-inch version with the Spectraply. This one actually already has a finish on it, just hasn't been buffed yet. This is a 3460, which is the next thicker CA glue up in the line of CA glue. Also one coat, and these will get a really nice shine to them once they're buffed. But very simple stuff to use. I like it. I work for UPS, so I don't have a lot of time, so that's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions for Kirk?
Yeah. Kirk, you still sell the Parfix, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just wanted to let everybody know.
Ah, okay. So will you put information about that in the chat so people can get a hold of you and buy something from you if they want to try it?
Yeah, I just put my website in there. The YouTube videos are actually on the website as well. I also
Okay.
do live on YouTube, which I'll be on there a little bit later, but same thing.
Very cool. Jack, Kapp, you got anything to say about your son showing up here?
Yeah, I tried to talk him into joining us, and I told him he'd have a good time with the old fellas.
I hope he does. Thank you for doing that. Okay, who's up here next? Bert and Randy. Bert, what do you got today?
Actually, I'll just defer to Don. Don was talking about some stuff before we got started, so then I was gonna talk with him, but let him carry the show.
Okay, Don, what do you got? Bring it on.
There we go.
Yep, we're good.
My wife found these 2 plates that I'd had for about 15 years. I got something right across that screen. Get rid of it. There. So she's got a little craft fair coming up on a week on Saturday, and she said you better put them into a couple of pieces of wood. So we've got the fox.
And what's the other side of that? Is that for like hanging on the wall?
Yeah, I'll show you when I pick up the second one. And that's the second one. These are 10 inches diameter. And there's the back.
So that's a hanger plate that you bored for and screwed in there, right? So it'll hang on a nail or a screw.
Yeah, I made those.
You
They're
make
made
those.
out of fiberglass.
It looks like brass.
No, it's uncoppered fiberglass. It's a printed circuit material.
Nice.
And
how do you cut that out?
What?
The circle.
Plate or I just drill behind the plate, and the plates are already made. I made about 50 of them when I used to be at work.
Uh-huh. Nice.
That was what I got, and that's what brought Bert up to say that he wanted to bring something. But just before Bert jumps in, I'll just show you a couple of needle holders. These are 5 inches tall, inch diameter. And I don't know if you heard that. Nice pop on them.
And how deep is the hole inside? I mean, how long a needle can you put in that?
The hole inside is 2 inches in the bottom and 1 inch in the top. So it's a 3-inch hole inside, maybe a bit longer. But it takes a 2.5-inch sewing needle.
Nice.
And they're made out of English yew. This one really does match in. When you put that like that, you can see the join literally matches.
Hey,
This
John,
one.
did you?
Sorry?
Did you say the yew grows in fence rows up there in England?
It's usually in churchyards.
Oh, that's right. It's in cemeteries. Okay.
Yeah, in the cemeteries, because they don't, it's a tree that doesn't grow on farms. As soon as they see it on the farm, it's cut down and got rid of.
Yeah. The
Because
reason I asked is, I think Sherry was talking about her wood, and I was thinking, you know, we have Osage orange here, and we all are finding these very interesting woods in our fence rows or in our churchyards. It's kind of interesting. So
yeah. These are this wood I've got here. That these are made out of about 10 years old. I keep them quite a long time, so that they really get dry. So over to you, Bert.
Well, when you put your picture up there, I had to go and get one of my trivets that I picked up. And I had to try and find these things. I found them in the UK, but they were from Ullapool, Scotland. So,
Yep.
And everybody's complaining about getting stuff. So I got this round to it. I made about a dozen of these. They were really popular. But a couple of these others, like you say, they got all different kinds of pictures on them. I got some horse lovers friends, and they love these. But I'd also found out that, I don't know if you can see it on here, this one here has got a crack in it. And I found out this is one of my earlier ones, and the wood moves. And even though I used the flexible silicone to hold it in, it's still cracked. So I got a hold of the fella in Ullapool, and he has a design for underneath here. It's actually like a whole bunch of ridges, and you only put drops of flexible in some of the ridges, and then the wood can move wherever and it won't crack. And since I started using his procedure, then I had really, really good success.
What's on the back, Bert?
On the back is, I just put a recess for holding it for turning. And on some of them, I drilled a hole to mount it on the wall, but most of the time it's just a recess to expand the chuck in.
Right. Why don't you try and put the blank glue it onto a faceplate, turn the front, recess your chucking point in the front, make your tile fit and everything else, then turn it round and finish off the back. Then you don't see the chucking point.
Well, I guess when I was looking at it, I wasn't worried about the chucking point. If somebody asked, I said, well, if the wood moves and it's perfectly flat, it'll rock. But if it's on a circle, it's like almost like a 3-point thing where it doesn't really matter. It doesn't rock as much if you've got a little bit of a rim to fit. And then I took notes from Richard Rappin when I did the workshop. He said, for picking things up, he says, always put a little lip on it. So when it's sitting on the table, you can get your finger under it, or, people can lift it up. And then when it's sitting on the table too, it's got a shadow line. So it's kind of.
Bert, is that meant to be used as a trivet?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we use them for putting, like Don was saying, he made them for people putting teapots and stuff. So you got a ceramic thing and you put a ceramic teapot on it, and it looks pretty. We use them all the time. They're great. They're like I say, they're.
So the inserts are ceramic. I was going to ask you what they are, and
they're ceramic
on top of that. Okay.
When I was in the UK, when I was working and I was in a factory in the UK, back and forth all the time, I found these in Ullapool, Scotland. I couldn't find them anywhere in Canada and the US. I get them from Australia or Ullapool. Well, I happened to be in the UK, so I phoned the guy and he said, well, I can ship them to your hotel. It takes 2 or 3 days. So I was over there one time for over a week. And so I phoned him and he shipped them to my hotel, and I had a whole suitcase full of them when I came back home.
Well, just to show you, Bert, this is another one. This is the Eternal Bow plate in a teapot stand. But
oh, yes,
I put 3 little button feet. Now this was made in Christmas 2000.
That's gorgeous.
Very nice.
Yeah, button feet really make a difference, because then it sits even on a rickety farm table where they're not perfectly flat. It would always sit level.
It will always be flat.
Yeah.
Now, are those held in with screws or pegs?
Sorry, but John?
What's holding the feet onto the disc? Is it a dowel on the back of the foot, or is there a screw in there?
Yeah, the foot's made with a dowel on it, and then it's just fitted into just drill 3 holes.
Yeah.
And glue them in.
You know, that's one thing I can never figure out the physics. 3 feet, they say if it's rocking, just keep rotating. Like if you're in a restaurant and the table's rocking, it has 3 feet, just roll it around a little bit. What's the physics of that? I just find that very interesting.
Oh, 3 feet will always sit stable. It's on 4, you got to rock it around a bit.
Yeah.
No, I know, but
milk in the milk stool. That's what you had on the milk stool. It's only 3 legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing when you're making these type of button feet is I found that the best way to get the right proportion to make certain it's a ball is to draw the circle of the size of foot you want, and then draw your spigot on it, and you'll know where you've got to come in and what the depth of that is to give you a fairly ball-like foot.
Now, Bert's
Anyway,
showing
there's
us
a few pictures of the ones that I made when I came back from Ullapool. I went on a trivet turning spree, and I don't know, I must have had 40 or 50 of these things, and so made piles of them, and they sold, but they didn't sell. They were great for gifts. People would buy them as gifts.
Yeah.
Now
what were you selling them for? What would you sell them for now?
I was getting $40 a piece for them back then, so I imagine they'd probably be about the same now.
Cool. I'm lucky if I get 10 quid over here, except for these 2 big ones. They're going to go up at 20 quid. Anyway,
that's it.
Are we done?
That's
it. Okay. Okay, Randy.
Well, I have a couple of things. First of all, the Susquehanna Woodturners at their November meeting will have a hands-on workshop concentrating on bowls and hollow forms. So there will be somewhere around 5 or 6 lathes set up, and we start at 6:30. That's on the 14th of November. The other thing is on November 4th and 5th, on November 4th and 5th, the Woodcraft in Harrisburg is going to be having their Turn for the Troops. Basically, we invite people to come out and make a pen for troops serving our country. I'm starting to make pen blanks to be used both there and at the farm show in 2024. And so we're not sure of any of the details yet with the farm show, but come on, anyone who's in the area, come on out. There are, I don't know if every Woodcraft does this, but I know there are several that do a Turn for the Troops in November, usually around Veterans Day. And so I'm working on these, and when the meeting here is over, I'm going to go down and finish trimming these off, and then they'll be ready to turn. And so that will be on November 4th and 5th from open to close. And everything will be provided, pen kits, blanks. There will be tools there, although you can bring your own if you wish. And we just have a good time. We invite the public, and we have everybody who comes can make a pen. We have had kids make a pen that had to stand on a stool to reach the lathe. we had Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts. We've had 10 and 9-year-old kids make their first pen. And it's just a blast to be there. So
Hey, Randy,
Yeah.
I need to ask what that table is. Is that divots or is that globs of glue, or what's that table?
it's something I put down under the pen blanks so they don't roll.
Oh, you made it or what?
Yeah, it's just a piece of large piece of cardboard, and I put globs of hot glue in it. I sprayed on it, and I put wax paper over it. But I put that so that the pen blanks don't roll all over the place.
And
That's
are
a
these
great idea.
Are these markings on the blanks, what, telling us the diameter of the drill or the depth of the hole? What are they?
No, it's the number of the blanks because I want to put match blanks together.
Oh, I see.
Or the nib and the cap.
Right, so you got to find the two pieces marked 7. I got it.
Yes, and the little lines mark the center of each set of blanks. That's for grain matching pen blanks.
Very
That's
nice.
a detail. I do that as a routine. It's not really necessary. So
Very nice. You going to show us any more here? Or we done
nope, that's it.
Okay, I'm going to stop your share. Thank you very much, Randy. Any other questions for Randy? Looks like Jonathan Wilson gets the last couple minutes. Jonathan, take it away.
Good morning. How are you?
Hi.
I received a shipment yesterday of some oak. My counterpart at the tree service showed up. Very, very nice of them to stop by and drop off some more wood. It's a new gentleman I'm working with. Seems very, very nice and in great, good interest and loving to share his leftovers. The takeaway is that his idea of oak and my idea of oak are two different things. You folks all know this, but you look funny at red oak and it splits on you. So just a heads up. Do not even play with red oak. The yield is terrible. I turned around and it would have made a mess of my hand if I hadn't been looking. And keep your hand off the tool rest. That's why it's called a tool rest and not a hand rest. So that's all I've got, John. That's all I've got. Nothing more to share. But just another close call sitting at the lathe. So
let's go back to this red oak talk for a second here, because pin oak is a red oak, and I've seen Angelo make some big, beautiful bowls out of pin oak. Are you saying all red oaks or just some red oaks?
Some red oaks. This is a batch of, it's something nasty. I looked at it funny and it gave me the stink eye and broke. Where it was hitting the tool rest, it would have made a mess of my hand. You know, time and opportunity, I skated out unscathed. Great. At the same time, oh boy, I got a pile of wood here that I really need to go over with a microscopic pin to make certain I don't have cracks before I throw them on the lathe.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this wood all right in your yard?
Yes, sir.
How'd you get it there?
Well, the tree service gentleman that I know dropped it off.
Okay. And do you burn wood to heat with or anything like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is going to go into your wood stove in the end.
So a lot of this is going to be in the fireplace. Yeah. Well, a lot of it will be in the fireplace next year. This stuff was put on the ground literally earlier in the week.
Hey, I think if I remember correctly, black oak, which I got some from the Barnes Arboretum, is in the same family, or it is a red oak, but it's called black oak. It cracks like crazy too. I turned a bowl out and man, as it dried, it just cracked right open. So
right. And the difference in the lobes, I mean, Connecticut, Northeast, whether you're in I don't care. The lobes on the tree, on the leaves that you're identifying the trees with, the white oak is generally what I aim for and make platters out of, and they come out fantastic. But the pointy, the spines on the lobes is red oak, as is this batch of wood. And I looked at this funny, and it just reached out to say, you can't look at me that way. And there it is. So
The mnemonic device is red Indians shoot pointy arrows.
there you go.
That's how you remember if it's a red oak or a white oak.
Okay.
Green's great. The medial rays in this are fantastic. I have a piece out that should make a great platter. That's if I can find it without a split. And this had to be a microscopic split, because I do look at the wood as it's being put on. But I looked at it funny, and it just snapped at me. So
go back to that pile of logs picture for a second, if you wouldn't mind.
yes, sir.
Okay. What's your chainsaw? What do you chainsaw this stuff with?
I'm on an old still. I don't care. I can use Husky. I can use John Surratt. I mean, I've got a huge background in that. So 20-inch bar, pay the money for the bar and service it as often as you can. Sharpen it after every time you use it. Ton of experience with a chainsaw.
How'd you get all that chainsaw experience?
Before I was doing all the scouts work, I was the gopher for a lumber crew out of Lowville, New York. We worked the Southern Adirondacks, and go get me this, or go get me that, or go get lunch for 6 of us, or go get another. And working the lumber, being a gopher was a great job. Young kid, pair of boots, baseball cap, shorts, and a t-shirt, and you can accomplish anything. Working with tough people and being in the outdoors. So it was awesome. It was great.
Can you switch back to another picture of the piece on the lathe with the crack in it?
Yes, sir. There you go.
Okay, I've got a question. I've heard from some people that, and I've experienced it a bit myself. That's a perfect picture there. That one's great. You notice that the pith, you're very, very close to the pith area there. And on the part where the tailstock is, it's almost like still a round part of the tree. And I've heard that when you're cutting blanks and drying them to reduce splitting, is cut the blank, but cut a flat on the part that's going to be on your tailstock, like in an inch or an inch and a half. So both halves of the log are exposed to air. And then because the grain has some place for the wood to move, it'll warp before it splits. Sure. And I've been trying that. I'm going to try that some more, because it made sense to me, because I had a bunch of wood that split and it just ended up being firewood. And somebody said, well, cut it on, I think it was Richard Rappin said, cut on both sides, get away from the pith, an inch or two away from the pith, and then cut a flat on the backside. And I'm going to try it, because what the hell? It's only firewood. If it makes a mistake, it's firewood, right. So it's no big deal.
No, I think that's a great idea.
Do you seal the flat sides or only the end grains?
What's that?
Do you seal the flat sides that you cut or only the end grain? In this case, would you seal only the ends?
So I won't seal the ends. If I cut the wood up and blank it out to put on the lathe, I'll put it on the lathe that day. After it's rough turned, then I'll throw a coat of TPC or whatever it's called, the tree saver stuff. I won't, or generally don't, coat if it's going to sit in the garage. It'll last about a week before it goes nuts on me. But it's a great question. The tree saver stuff can work exceptionally well. The one closing statement I'll make, and I apologize for the time. This new crew, I don't know where they're out of. They've got to be out of Windsor or whatever the case may be. They had this monster rig, a Manitou telehandler, easily 30-foot span that reached out, and on the end, the head on the end was actually a clamp, and they could do a 60-foot pick. And I was talking with a gentleman, at 60 foot, it could hold 12,000 pounds, and then they literally put the crane back down and put it on the ground. They've come so much farther with what they're doing these days in what we used to do back in the day. They wouldn't have been able to. They can do so much more. So it was interesting to watch, interesting to see.
I've seen that go on, things like that go on too. It really has changed a lot in the last few years.
Incredible. So thank you. Appreciate the time.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for showing up, and thanks for showing pictures. And we've come to the end of the hour, and thank you all for your attention and your participation today, and we'll see you all next week.
Yep.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.